On a calm afternoon in June 1999, residents of Bellingham, Washington, detected a strange odor. Little did they know, this smell heralded an impending disaster. That evening, a deafening explosion shattered the peace of the city as a stream transformed into a raging fire, consuming all life in its path. The disaster claimed the lives of 3 young individuals, including 2 10-year-old boys. And all this stemmed from an oil pipeline buried beneath the city. Today, let's revisit this incident that changed the history of pipeline safety in the United States. This is a front-page photo from the Seattle Times dated June 12, 1999. It prominently displays the words, "Everything is dead." Below it is an aerial image. We can see a black trail appearing amidst the lush green woods. It looks like a lit fuse. Everything it touched was scorched. In fact, just 2 days prior, the scene here looked different. Huge black smoke nearly engulfed the entire city. This black trail was the remnants of a massive fireball that scorched the path taken by the stream through the park. So what happened on June 10? What actually occurred in this city? Bellingham, Washington, is located near Bellingham Bay on the Pacific Northwest coast. It's not far from the Canadian border, about 85 miles north of Seattle. This is the northernmost mid-sized city in the continental US. Hovander Homestead Park is a 0.98 square kilometer park in Bellingham. This park connects to Hovander Creek. It is a popular place for local residents to spend their leisure time. Besides fishing, swimming, running, and biking, in the summer, people also love to play in the waters below the falls. Some daredevils even like to jump off the falls to experience the stream's coolness. But the residents were unaware. Beneath this natural park lies one of the most important fuel pipelines on the West Coast, the Olympic Pipeline, and it is situated right beneath the creek. This pipeline starts from the refineries in Whatcom County and Anacortes. Completed in 1999, it stretches approximately 400 miles. It extends southward to Seattle and Portland. It transports refined petroleum products from northwestern Washington to southern Portland, Oregon. On Thursday, June 10, 1999, 2 10-year-old boys, Wade King and Steven Ziwoto, decided to explore the woods and creek at the park. They planned to spend the afternoon there. Around 3 p.m., they faintly detected a strange, strong smell lingering in the woods. The 2 boys were oblivious to the situation. They continued playing, but the smell gradually wafted into the city, drawing the attention of many. Meanwhile, in the control room of the Olympic pipeline operator, anomalies began to occur. Alarm bells rang, and the pumps at one site stopped, indicating something was wrong. But the operators were unable to pinpoint the issue at first. In reality, around 3:20 p.m., the Olympic pipeline near the Bellingham water treatment plant ruptured. By approximately 3:25, gasoline had already leaked into Hovander Creek. It gradually spread throughout the watershed of Hovander Falls Park. At 4:24 p.m., a woman driving by Hovander Creek called 911. She reported a very unpleasant odor that was making it hard to breathe. Before long, residents living near the creek also called 911, reporting a strong gasoline smell. They also noted changes in the color of the creek. The Bellingham Fire Department was notified and quickly responded to the scene. By this time, a large amount of gasoline had turned the creek a shade of pink. The fire department promptly informed the Olympic Pipeline Company of the leak and evacuated people from the creek's vicinity. Once notified, the Olympic Pipeline controller began closing valves to isolate the rupture. Roads surrounding the park and creek were blocked off by police and firefighters, and a hazardous materials team was called in to investigate. At 4:34 p.m., firefighters observed smoke rising from the creek. The water had turned yellow. It had completely become a river of gasoline. At 4:46 p.m., radio stations started broadcasting urgent warnings, urging people to stay away from the creek. About 10 minutes later, the Olympic controllers also called 911, confirming that a significant amount of gasoline had leaked into the creek. At this point, a thick layer of gasoline covered the creek. The air was filled with the vapor particles of gasoline. It only took a spark to turn this creek into a fire dragon. And ironically, the 2 boys Wade and Steven had not evacuated. They were still exploring by the creek. At this time, they discovered a discarded butane lighter. Curious, the boys began playing with it, attempting to ignite it. At 5:02 p.m., a loud bang was heard. The leaking gasoline ignited on the creek, causing a massive explosion. Subsequently, the fireball rolled over a mile towards West Bellingham. It looked like a lit fuse. As the fireball burned, it destroyed vegetation near the creek and almost everything in its path. After that, a massive plume of thick smoke shot up into the sky, visible for miles around. At this moment, both boys, engulfed in flames, jumped into the creek to extinguish the fire. But their skin had already been severely burned. After coming ashore, they stumbled towards others nearby for help. They were ultimately taken to the nearest hospital by ambulance. Later, they were airlifted to a burn unit in a Seattle hospital. However, the following day, both boys passed away. Additionally, an 18-year-old high school student, Liam Wood, was set to graduate high school that summer. He had gone to the park alone to unwind before exams as he enjoyed fishing. He left a note for his parents at home. At the time of the incident, he was focused on fishing. He inhaled a large amount of gasoline vapors, lost consciousness, and fell into the creek. He ultimately drowned. Aside from this, 8 other people were injured. Fortunately, the fire and explosion were contained within the park. Most of the gasoline was burned off before it could flow into downtown Bellingham and further into Bellingham Bay. Had the fire not ignited, more gasoline would have leaked into Bellingham and beyond. If ignited later, the consequences would have been dire. Thus, authorities believe that while the fire was accidentally sparked by the boys, they may have inadvertently saved many lives. Statistics showed the fire spanned 26 acres. The fire destroyed 2.5 miles of vegetation along the creek bed, along with 100,000 salmon and other aquatic life. The large volume of smoke caused Interstate 5 to be closed for several hours that night after the incident. The explosion and fire resulted in power outages for several hours. Windows of several buildings nearby were shattered. One house was completely destroyed. The city's water treatment plant was located near the explosion site. While the building itself survived, everything inside was obliterated. This caused partial damage to the city's water treatment and distribution systems. Bellingham's water supply was incapacitated for nearly a week before recovery. The incident affected over 4,000 people. Property damage was estimated at $58,455,927. Most of this was due to the explosion. The pipeline rupture caused a leak of 277,000 gallons of gasoline into the creek. On July 28, 1999, the parents of the 2 boys who perished in the explosion filed a wrongful death lawsuit in Whatcom County Superior Court. They listed the pipeline company and 3 employees as defendants. On April 10, 2002, the 2 families reached an out-of-court settlement with the Olympic Pipeline Company. They agreed to pay $75 million to the families of the 2 boys. The family of high school student Liam Wood reached a separate undisclosed settlement with the 2 companies. Following the explosion, local, state, and federal governments conducted multiple investigations. New state laws were enacted and federal legislation proposed. Various lawsuits and enforcement actions were initiated. The U.S. Office of Pipeline Safety released an investigative report in June 2000. They determined the incident was not due to a single error. Rather, it resulted from a series of missteps, most of which were the fault of Olympic Pipeline Company. They failed to provide adequate training for employees, and the company operated the Olympic pipeline in an unsafe manner, violating safety standards for pipelines. In response to these missteps, the U.S. Office of Pipeline Safety announced fines exceeding $3 million against the pipeline company. On December 11, 2002, the Olympic Pipeline Company admitted in U.S. District Court in Seattle to 1 felony charge of violating the Hazardous Liquid Pipeline Safety Act and 2 misdemeanor charges of violating the Clean Water Act. The company agreed to pay $112 million to settle all federal criminal penalties and the majority of criminal suits against them. Additionally, Washington State imposed a civil fine of $2.05 million on the Olympic Pipeline Company. The joint venture behind it, Shell, faced a $5 million fine. The Olympic pipeline explosion in 1999 999 not only caused loss of life and environmental destruction, but it also revealed severe deficiencies in the management of industrial infrastructure. It marked a significant turning point in U.S. pipeline safety history, prompting relevant industries and government agencies to reassess and reform pipeline safety management systems. This video ends here. What are your thoughts on this incident? Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel.